Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of CAPISAR podcast. Three wonderful ladies have joined me again today to talk about the Libra Ingress. So I won't name them. You all know. Thanks, everyone, for joining. And yeah, we have a lot to cover, especially given what is happening across the world with trade wars and immigration crisis, or people kind of rallying up against immigration. And obviously, Trump's foreign policy is one of the major, uh, you know, talking points for today. So I think I'll quickly share my screen. So I was wondering if we could start with UK this time instead of America. And um, so this is the Libra Ingress for America. So last time we did a good overview of what to do with Aries Ingress charts, and we went into the foundation of the Aries Ingress, talking about the creation of America. But from this time, we'll just directly jump into the chart that really matters. Uh, so Aries rising for Libra Ingress, and Mars in the eighth house. So Sharon, you just kind of uh, I finished putting your article into layout, which was obviously brilliant. So I thought we'll start with you for insights, and then I'll back up towards the end, leaving Tania and Joli also to engage.
Okay, well, off I go again. One thing to take into account with this particular ingress is the fact that 20 hours prior to the Libra ingress, of course, we've got the eclipse.
Yeah.
And always we have to take into account the lunations prior to each ingress. So that's the monthly ingress as well as the quarterly ingresses, as well as the Aries ingress. So I'm just going to jump ahead actually with reference to the UK. The eclipse, as we know, is at just about 29 degrees, the anaretic degree of Virgo. And when I looked at the monthly eclipses for the Scorpio ingress and the Sagittarian ingress, what is highlighted is that the ascendant set for Westminster is 29 degrees Virgo. So I think we need to sort of bear that in mind, that during the Scorpio ingress, there's likely to be more events happening. But anyway, as Aswin said, it's Aries rising, it's cardinal sign rising, so we can expect fast-paced matters. However, Mars is in aversion to Aries. He's in his own sign, so he's actually very strong, as it were, and he's in sect because he's above the horizon when the sun's just below, and he's in his own bounds and decan. So this is actually quite a strong Mars, but he's in the eighth sign. So the eighth, as we know, is the house of, lost the word, not death, mortality. It's the house of mortality, and it's also the house of our partners or our open enemies. And we, the people, the rustics, are firmly in the grasp of others, our finances. However, our finances, the people's finances in this ingress, are indicated by Venus. And she's in the sixth house of the unions, the government employees, so that's nurses, train drivers, you name it, anyone who's employed by the government. And it's the house of dis-ease. And Venus is there, but she's also in the sign of her fall. She rises ahead of the sun. So I'm going to get Tania to talk about the phase of Venus, because we were chatting about how it would appear, and this is just going on social media, that actually not many people, perhaps those new to astrology, are aware of the importance of the phases of the inferior planets and how they change their designation according to whether they rise ahead of the sun or rise after the sun. So Venus does have dignity in as much as she's in a feminine sign, but kind of her hands are tied really, and there's not a lot really that you can bring out really, really positive about this placement of Venus. You know, I'm an optimist. I always look for the positives, but it's hard. I'm really, really am toiling barren ground here. And she's in a cold, dry sign, isn't she? So it's the autumn sign of autumn. And then, you know, the sun is in the 7th sign, but it's actually below the horizon. And as we know, tomorrow, we're recording this on whatever number day it is, 21st, am I on? I don't know what day I'm on. Yeah, it must be the 21st if it's 22nd tomorrow. God, I've got a brain. So again, the light is below the horizon. Now, obviously, what is of concern to us is the health of His Majesty. And also, we need to consider the role of our leader of the country, Sir Keir Starmer. And in the article that I've written for the APA, I chronicle, which will be available in a few weeks to the public, I talk about the difficulty of ascertaining which significator is for the king and which significator is for Starmer. So I'm going to here take Starmer as Mars, as the exalted ruler of Capricorn. And Starmer is in the hands of the others. and he's fixed there, he's solid there. And he can see the MC degree by sextile. But Venus also trines the MC degree. And she's actually going to get there first. A female is going to get there first. And as I've already said, that Venus actually, for this quarter, indicates the finances or the assets, the tangible assets of the people. So we know we've already got issues over our food supply, that we've got rising costs for food. We've got shortage of food because lack of land that's being farmed productively. And we've got a lot of cost involved. But let's go back to this Venus. Tania, do you want to talk about this Venus and her phase?
Yeah, okay. So what I see here is an Oriental Venus, which means Venus rises before the sun. And we should remind our listeners that Venus doesn't actually have to rise over the horizon in the chart. It is just a heliacal phase that we are looking at. So that is the distance between the sun and Venus. And since she's on the left side from the sun, she will rise over the horizon before the sun. So she's Oriental. And since she is a nocturnal planet, nocturnal planets are better off when they are occidental. And they are best off when they are occidental in a nocturnal chart. Now, in a diurnal chart, actually, an Oriental Venus would not be that bad. But now we have two factors that are pretty negative. We have an Oriental Venus in a nocturnal chart. So that makes her pretty weak from her heliacal phase, or from the point of view of her heliacal phase. And then we can add to that she is in her fall and in a cadent house. So this doesn't bear very well for Venus, and it takes a little bit away her, the benefits that she usually promises. And Firmicus Maternus is pretty negative about such a Venus. And to that, we have to add that it is a waxing moon, which is good in a nocturnal chart, but with a Venus that is so badly placed, it's not necessarily a good thing. And well, in the sixth house, we have the second house assets in the sixth house. So I wonder if people have to spend just more money for living, for a daily, do not only refer to food, but expenses, daily living, whatever, rent, especially. So Venus is actually showing a kind of loss here because she is in her fall by night, and she's below the horizon. We should add that too. In a nocturnal chart, Venus is strong when she's above the chart, right? When she's visible, but we have an invisible Venus who is not connected to the ascendant. She's in her fall. She is oriental, so everything that could go wrong with that Venus is actually going wrong, speaking just from the astronomical point of view. So that's my 5 cents here. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
It's more than just 5 cents.
Yeah. Joli, have you got anything you want to add around this Venus?
I think it really speaks to, first of all, thank you, because that was absolutely brilliant and really on point, I think, for what is happening on the ground, literally earth ground in the UK right now. We recently had a protest rally / march that was ostensibly for protecting women and children, which can also be represented by Venus. However, the pushback that the British public is trying to do in the face of, for example, another topic that's coming up related to finances, as you said, Sharon, which is the softening up of the British public for losing the triple lock pension. That's something that we're getting bombarded with now, and it really feels like there is this softening up effect happening where the triple lock, which is meant to be, absolutely untouchable, will be dissolved. And Britain already has the lowest pension rates in all of Europe. So, the idea that, we can't afford this is interesting in the light of Venus being obviously in its fall and in the 6th house. So the idea of caring, that the union, what your pension, basically, I think that speaks directly to that. And just in general, the idea that, that we're having a situation right now where finances are an issue. However, it does feel like the policies are all over the place. And I think this is also reflected in how Starmer's government has been rapidly losing people over the past several weeks. He's been losing key advisors and people in senior positions. I did want to go back quickly to what Sharon was mentioning about, let's look at the 10th house and take the two rulers. So one can represent the king and one can represent Starmer. And really it's I think perhaps maybe a bit of a toss-up, because a lot of people are baying for Starmer's head from what I'm reading. And which is why the race for deputy leader of the Labour Party and deputy leader of the Labour Party is such a big deal. And of course, Harriet Harman has said it must be a woman. So I really liked what you were saying about, look at Venus applying to the MC. She'll get there first. But I do think it could be open to debate whether Saturn in the 12th house is representing Starmer or representing the king. Either way, it's not a terribly strong position for Saturn, although Saturn, I think, is just within his own terms. And then, of course, as you pointed out, We've got Mars in the 8th house. Mars is averse to the ascendant. And then also the ascendant exalted ruler is in fall. So all overall, this is not painting a very pretty picture for the next few months for Britain. I think we're going to be really limping along here.
Can I just add something I forgot mentioning, which is actually, I think, important. If we look at Venus, she's in Virgo, and of course we had, or we will have actually, the eclipse in Virgo, and the ruler is Mercury. Yeah. So I'm thinking that actually that Mercury is of extreme importance here because, well, he disposes of Venus and he disposes of the eclipse. And he is just between the two lights in this Ingress chart. So, and he will apply to Jupiter next, if my calculations are correct.
Yeah, I just want to go back to a point that Joli made. The reason I took Mars as Starmer is as the exalted ruler of the MC. And as you said, you know, it's a toss-up. But if we take the light, the sun, as indicating the monarch, he's in the 6th quadrant place. He's in ill health. And if we take Saturn as indicating the monarch, as the ruler, he's in an institution. He's in the 12th. So that's why I think Saturn and the sun indicate the king, and it leaves the exalted ruler, Mars, as indicating Starmer. Now, Starmer is detached from the people. And the fact that Mars is in aversion to the people, and as you've just said, that the sun indicating, as the exalted ruler of the ascendant, indicating the people, is not happy. Well, sun, you know, happens this time every year. But the other thing to consider is the Venus cycle. And again, we know she has an 8-year cycle. And when I looked up, because Tania's made the point that Mercury rules the eclipse and Mercury rules Venus, but there is actually mutual reception between Venus and Mercury, although they are in aversion to one another. But Mercury is strong because he's triplicity ruler, nocturnal triplicity ruler of air. He's in the air sign. He's in his own bound with the moon, and he's in the face or the decan of the moon.
And angular, of course.
Yeah, angular by sign. So I just want to go to my notes for when they were last in this position, they being Venus in Virgo, Mercury in Libra. It was, I should have been a bit more prepared. I know I wrote something about it.
I just want to throw in there, Sharon, while you're looking, that I appreciate everything you say. I 100% can see. I love the reasoning that you just gave about Saturn and the sun. Mercury is very strong, but and people will argue about this, but Mercury is also combust. So I think that also is a layer that we need to look at here from, you know, if we're going to assign importance to Mercury, which I think we should do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
yeah, totally. Yeah, I've just thanks for that, Joli. I've just found the last time at the equinox when Venus was in Virgo, Mercury in Libra was 1982. So of course I'm talking about the UK only. Yeah, it was the end of the Falklands War was celebrated on the 12th of October. So within this Libra month, and the polls that showed that the Conservatives under Thatcher at this time of the year, 1982, were an approval rating of 44%. And today, Labour's approval rating, I did this back at the beginning of August, so it might have changed since then, was minus 56%, but that was equal to the Conservatives' rating in 2024. Yeah, and then I looked at Saturn, ruler of the MC in the 10th, in his own bounds in Pisces, but he's in the 12th of institutions. and of course he retrogrades back to 25 Pisces before he stations direct. So the last time he was at this position, 28 degrees, was the 6th of April. And he was, oh, sorry, it was when he gets back to his stationary degree, 25. And he was on this degree, 25, where he stations direct, between the 5th and the 14th of April. And during this period, the FTSE plunged. And that was when America imposed tariffs on our exports. And there was a huge increase in household bills. And it was still the Birmingham Binmen strike, which is still continuing today. So that that sort of slight digression is what we're factoring in over the next couple of months. But I haven't mentioned Jupiter. And again, Tania, I'm going to throw something on you now, which we hadn't discussed. I was reading Gary Caton, lovely chap. And he mentions that on the 19th of September, a couple of days ago, Jupiter actually was at 0 degrees declination and on his node.
Yeah, the node is actually given at 10 degrees Cancer, but yes, well, he is in the signs of his North node at the moment. Yes,
right.
But he is starting, if you want, so a new cycle from the North node to his bendings. It is interesting. Yes, I was thinking about that this morning. Yeah.
Well, we've got exalted Jupiter, but in the house of the home, the land. And so whatever he does, it's going to be big. And of course, he was known as Jupiter Pluvius.
Yes, also we have to consider that every planet is on the ecliptic is actually at its strongest position in a way, because it is, or we should say it is more materialized. It is not so spiritual. It is basically down to earth on being on the ecliptic. When he is at his apogee or in his bendings, then he has a more elevated meaning. But on the ecliptic, it is also more linked to the physical body, everything that is, matter, we can say. So now we can think what could an exalted Jupiter mean on a physical basis, actually. So not just spirituality and what we always read, but down to earth. What does it mean, right? So now we have it in the lower heaven and in a water sign. So everything that is linked to water, to rain, yes, and also we can add to that also Mars is now in a water sign, which also means a lot of rain, and he's in the 8th house. So what Sharon said already before, I think you mentioned that rainfall, right, Sharon? Did you mention that?
Well, yeah, I didn't actually. I just said he's Jupiter Pluvius, bringer of rain.
Yeah, well, pluvius is rain, so yeah, that's just the Latin word for it, right? Yes.
Yeah, but not maybe some of our
maybe
viewers won't. From different countries, they won't know that.
Yeah, and also don't forget we have a big trine here. Saturn is also in a water sign, right? Yeah. At least for now. So we have three. We have all the superior planets now in water signs. So we can imagine what this will bring. A lot of water. I was just thinking that we are reading that. In the northern and the poles are, the glaciers are getting melted, but this also raises the water levels of the oceans. And I mean, it's not a little melting. I mean, there are melting pieces of the size of Manhattan. I'm told Manhattan is pretty big, so we are not talking small, we are talking big. And in addition, and this is what I am very concerned about, is that the glaciers are actually, I don't know for what biological reason, but they are made of sweet water. It's not salty water. So if that big amount of salty water is released to the oceans, it is like kind of diluting the salty content of the oceans. And I just recently read in a German scientific paper that the currents, the air currents, the Gulf currents are showing the possibility that they get an arrest, that they might actually invert. And they had studied this, or they had forecasted that for 2050 and beyond, but it is showing its effects much earlier than they hoped for. So I just thought it was interesting that this news came up. I have somewhere the link. It is interesting that this shows up while we're having this big trine here.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Joli, you'll go.
I just wanted to add briefly that, of course, the king hosted Trump at a state dinner, and I believe they had over 160 guests sitting at this long table. It's been splashed all over the news. Kemi Badenoch, who's, of course, the leader of the opposition, so Jupiter in Cancer in the fourth, was apparently saying that she had a picture of herself with Trump, and she said, "We've been talking all night about how ridiculous it is to leave billions of pounds in the sea." And she was referring, of course, to oil in the North Sea, and saying how, we must go in and drill it, and there's arguments on both sides. Some people saying that no, it's been basically tapped out. Other people saying no, there's enough in there to last well beyond our lifetimes. So I just thought that was really interesting, because it's that idea of sea and underneath, and possibly, speaking to, again,
and
wealth,
Saturn,
Mars,
and
Nice
Saturn,
catch, love
and
it.
Saturn in water, yes,
Yeah,
because Saturn
yeah.
is oil. I mean, petrol and
and Mars in the eighth house of resources, and then so I think that fits quite well.
Yeah, I thought I'd read that they had actually found a new oil field, which is again part of the reason why this subject has come up. It's a brand new oil field, but they might give it to Norway.
But I also read, and this is on the positive side of our news, that in Brazil they found the biggest sweet water underground reserve of, I read, the earth. It could give water supply for Brazil for 250 years. But I'm afraid they will use it now for other purposes. But that was a big discovery. So there's also fresh water and sweet water.
Well, that's one of the things again, isn't it? That the technological drive takes up so many resources of our natural resources. They need a lot of water.
Yeah, you know what needs more water at all in our recent, cycle of technologies? You know that, Joli? Of course you know it.
Oh, yes.
It's artificial intelligence. I had no idea that they were just the #1 water consumer in the entire world. I mean, they use amounts of water that is incredible. And
it's staggering.
For cooling.
Yeah.
For cooling
the data centers.
the chips, the computer chips, and they really use, and this is a big problem in America, because those huge new plants are being built in nowhere land, somewhere far off, because they make a lot of noise, and because they have this huge need of water. And I see that there are many places where people are already complaining because this noise is constant. It's like something like this, I don't know what, there must be a very big noise. And because the people do not have water anymore, because it is given to the plants.
Yeah. Well, one thing when we're looking at the weather, we mustn't overlook the natural weather systems, El Nino and La Nina. And when I was growing up, these were referred to very often, but now you don't hear anything. You just hear climate change. Well, yeah, it's gone on forever and ever. But I think for the UK as a whole, we are going to see some weather patterns that may be slightly disruptive in the UK.
What we can see already is that we had such a huge drought here, for example, in Italy, but I know it's worldwide. Just think of what is happening in Spain and other countries. So it wasn't raining, it hasn't been raining for many months, but so the soil, the ground gets absolutely hard. And when it rains, then even not such a huge thingy, we have a problem because the water will not be absorbed by the soil.
It floods.
So then we have actually you know, water problems, but what's the reason for them? Is it drought, or is it just the rain?
It's going to be an overabundance of rain, and it is going to cause problems. And of course, although the angles will vary, but basically across this latitude and a bit further south, they're going to have Cancer on the IC. So that does seem that Europe will get plenty of rain.
And I can just give you the example. For example, in Germany, the drought was not so hot there, but the drought was horrible. And entire forests are now dying because they are naturally, those places have a very light soil, a sandy soil. So you can imagine what drought causes to sandy soil. That there is no water reserve beneath the roots, or you know, groundwater or stuff. So the entire forest are dying, and when then the rain comes, then there is erosion. There is nothing to hold the soil, right?
I think this is a good example of what happens when three women get together and there's one man, but the one man doesn't get a chance to air his views.
No way you come to that, but you're okay.
No, I'm happy listening. But yeah, I think there were some really brilliant points made as usual. So I don't know if I have much to talk, but I was just wondering if I saw something on social media. I don't know if it's an actual news, but Europe is about to allow its governments to scan everyone's emails and messages, like private emails and private messages, which means there is basically no privacy at all. It's zero privacy. And free speech is basically becoming a joke across the world, not just Western world. So Mercury is part of the eclipse as the lord of the third house, and it's strong, but I also think it is a little weak in few ways because Venus has fallen its ruler, and that kind of adds a little bit of vulnerability to how Mercury might kind of function in the seventh house. And for me, I think Saturn is the key in this chart. Like Saturn is the lord of the 10th house in the weakest cadent, which means the greatest decline of the administration of the UK is what we can expect. I don't know, like Jolly, you gave an insight into like people are looking for a change already. So and I won't be surprised if Starmer is gone, especially given the fact that the lord of the MC and also the 10th house Saturn is not only in the 12th house of weak cadent position, but also which indicates loss, but it's also placed in the nodal axis, which always is a reason for major imbalance or crisis or shifts.
Change to the status quo,
Yes. So, and I remember looking at England's chart during the Great Conjunction of 2020, and I wrote it on Quora saying that I won't be surprised if none of the governments finish their tenure for the next 20 years until the next conjunction in 2040. I think it's been the case so far. And I really won't be surprised if Keir Starmer also kind of falls, which I obviously anticipate. But this is a really, this probably might be a shift where things start declining very quickly for him. And I think this 3 planets in water is a really interesting point. I was thinking on the lines of how about contaminating water, and which means like basically drilling is also kind of a contamination. So there will be, I think there will be chances for that as well. And obviously you went a lot into weather, which is brilliant. So, and second lord Venus indicating the immediate economic position of the country, which obviously is not as lucrative as England used to be before 100 years. Uh, uh, the the fiscal stability of England is at the poorest. I mean, at least one of the poorest in its history, and which is a sad thing, obviously. And and Jupiter, not exactly opposing the MC or the 10th house, but it is still kind of opposing the MC by whole signs. So I'm wondering if there is a rally of people against the government, or people united against the administration of the nation, or something like that. Because the moon is also in the 7th house, angular, and moon is also the seclide, which again kind of indicates there could be something like that, because moon is basically angular to Jupiter. So, and this could this is from Jyotish perspective, this could indicate additional strength to the moon and this configuration of Jupiter and moon, which could again indicate people rallying up against the government, because the MC is obviously in the pivot of a square. And 7th lord Venus is also debilitated, which also kind of indicates the submission of United Kingdom to maybe non-allies, or probably even allies. I think the UK has kind of become completely submissive to whatever the US has to say, especially in terms of trade, and they're even ready to lose money as a result of their own trade decisions, which is a major worry, especially this has been the case since Brexit, but I think it's very obvious at this point. So I don't know if the United Kingdom government will, change this foreign policy of not being cooperative to whatever the US has to say, but even if they have loss because of it. So I think that's something kind of stands out for me. And there was I don't know if this Tim or Tom Robinson is a true fact that happened a week ago or something like that, as a result of
Tyler Robinson.
No, Tommy Robinson.
Oh, Tommy Robinson. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, not talking about that. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was. That's why I was confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was this immigration rally by the people of United Kingdom and his supporters, most likely. So I think there is some kind of a threat that is kind of coming up in the UK, where people are not necessarily
not coming up. It's here.
Yeah, it's here. So yeah, so the immigration crisis is basically, I mean, entire Europe is standing against immigration because of various reasons, but still I think UK is kind of one of the loudest, especially given what has happened before 3 or 4 days ago. And I think the 12th house is very, very significant of that. It indicates a lot of things, especially crisis or problems because of people migrating to England. And the 12th lord Jupiter is placed in the 4th house, which also shows that the foreign people are pretty strong in the UK. They are not like powerless. They probably have equal power as the people in the United Kingdom. So and these reasons basically could kind of indicate some problems within the United Kingdom, because Abu Mashar very clearly says that the planet that we are looking at, if it is aspected by a planet from the 12th house or the 9th house, whatever it is, they'll face problems because of the immigration or other 12th house foreign related matters, or 9th house. If it is the 9th house, it is the foreign policy or export related matters. So here we see that the 10th lord is placed in the 12th house. So crisis could come from 12th house matters, and we also have the trine between Jupiter and Saturn. And I don't always think the trines are good. The 12th lord trining the 10th ruler is not necessarily a good thing. So it is a matter of worry where people are kind of split as a result of 12th house matters or foreign related factors. So yeah.
Yeah, the moon's only aspect is to Jupiter.
Yeah.
That
12th.
that is it. Jupiter rules the ninth. And of course, we've seen these sweeping new laws come in to stop people airing their views. When the issue of free speech was raised by Trump, it was unbelievable what the response was, because we have no free speech in this country now. We are monitored, and as was it you or Tania said about the laws coming in, that we're going to, or Joli, that we're going to, everything is going to be made available to the government.
Yeah, it is. Private conversations are going to be scanned.
But
look
one
where
of the
Mercury
things,
is in this chart. I mean, he's outshone by two luminaries.
yeah,
He is under the rays, or well, he's combust basically by the sun, but he's so close to the moon that she could also outshone him. So he is basically invisible here. And then if we consider again the heliacal phases, the moon is the sect ruler, yes, but she is below the horizon, so she is invisible. So Mercury is basically 2 times invisible. He is below the horizon, and then he is invisible by heliacal sect and by lunar sect, if we want to say so. And I totally agree with what Aswin said before, that the problem of free speech is a big issue, and not just in England. I mean, the fact that there are being introduced these new laws that officially they want to make sure to protect children, which is the Mercury. Yeah, great. Yes, exactly. But it's the sun in this chart. In the English chart is the sun is the 5th house, and he's just behind, between the moon, which is also representing children. But anyway, this is the official excuse that we are being scanned and everything is being checked to protect children. But honestly, who is believing that? I mean, they are just introducing new controls with the excuse of something that is apparently good, but we will give up everything else for that. So, and I'm afraid that if we speak against it, then it will come up that we are in kind of favor for horrible things. You know what? Yeah. So I don't even want to pronounce the word. But I know, I mean, for example, now ChatGPT can control kind of information. And when I was really opening my ears to all this pump and, showing off with Trump in the UK, which I found well. But the comment of Starmer was actually an eye-opener to me, because he said, yeah, we are a country of free speech and blah, blah, blah. But in order to protect children, we will have to introduce new laws, and we will have to blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, if you do not really listen carefully, you say, oh, yeah, that's good. Of course, we want to protect our children. But there's a big but, and 3 points and many, many other points. So I would be very careful of that, what kind of freedom we are giving up, and if this is really effective for the purpose that they are saying it's effective for their purpose to control the populace. Yeah, I don't think it is effective to it's not children, to protect children. Which of course we all agree on that, right? But
and you could argue that's Neptune in the 1st house, right? The illusion, the delusion, if you will.
What are you talking about? I'm sorry, I don't follow that, Joli.
I know, but I'm just throwing it out there. But having said that, I just wanted to quickly point out that Venus in the Venus in Virgo in the 6th house, it just occurred to me that is Rachel Reeves. That is the Chancellor of the Exchequer with her back against the wall. So I thought that was interesting. I just briefly put in a comment in our chat about how gilt yields have risen
Yeah.
since Reeves' first budget last October. And again, I refer back to the point that I think they are really softening up the British public for their assault on the triple lock vis-a-vis pensions. So,
well, also, we're at the Saros cycle for the property market to go down. I hate to frighten people, but I think we will see issues over property next year. Well, I haven't looked at the Capricorn Ingress, but again, Labour have their party political conference at the end of September to the 1st of October. And Rachel from Accounts will be them putting forward her budget, I think on the 6th of November.
November, that's right.
Was there a lunation on the 5th? On the 5th of November. Right, doesn't aspect anything there. Yeah, so there's a full moon on the 5th of November at 13 Taurus. So that's the second house of the people's assets. And you've spoken about the triple lock going to be broken. They're just going to raid anyone and everyone for absolutely everything. And again, going back to the past, well, this is America, not the UK, but I think it was Hoover, when they confiscated everybody's gold in America. Everybody had to give their gold to the government. And then as soon as they did, the price of gold went up.
Yeah, funny that.
It's strange, isn't it? And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something happening again. You've in the chat you've just mentioned about the gilt yields, but also the bond market. I mean, it's unbelievable that governments, and I think, is it China or Japan, have mostly bought the UK.
It's China.
Debt.
China
is one of the largest holders, but Japan is also a pretty large holder of UK debt.
Yeah. So again, I think during this quarter that we're going to see issues arising. So I think, as I said, looking at the ingresses into Scorpio and Sagittarius, the fact that the ascendant set for Westminster picks up the eclipse degrees, and this eclipse carries on next year. The Virgo Pisces carries on into 2026, although obviously there's a Leo Aquarius component to it as well next year. This does not bode well.
Are we talking about England or now
England.
America? Because now we have the
No,
American.
I just put up the chart to make the transition, but I'm still.
Oh, right.
Yeah, no
Washington.
problem.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we could continue with our talk about what Sharon's already saying about England, because I think in America that will be really interesting here.
It's funny. The Libra Ingress for America is like the 10th house is very weak with Venus. Fallen in the 10th house, and a lot of the MC is basically debilitated in the 10th house. This is a classic condition of a weak or a poor leader. And again, the 9th lord of foreign policy is fallen in the 11th house, which indicates the foreign policies America is basically dead. So I think these are two strong points. I don't know, like people will already start hating me, but 4th house afflicted by two malefics like North Node and Saturn, again talks about the fact that the domestic situation in US is very distorted, and people are quite unhappy about the domestic environment, and free speech is obviously not as much there in America as well. So and Mars is in the 12th house, so it's the house of war as well. So I don't know, like it's
But I mean, we could start saying, okay, the ascendant ruler is Jupiter, and Jupiter in this case would rule the people, right, as the ascendant ruler, and he's exalted. So we might think, oh, that's good for the American people. But again, he's in the 8th house.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the 2nd house, and the 2nd house is ruled by Saturn. So the 2nd house rules the money, right? The money that the people have, that they can spend. And Saturn is a ruler, and Saturn is retrograde in a house where or in a sign where
dignity.
No dignity. Well, he is in his own bounds at the moment, but he will leave it. And so a retrograde Saturn describes a loss, right? Saturn is always descriptive of a loss. So, which means that the money of the American people that they can spend is actually diminishing. It is getting
obscure
than they had before.
Yeah.
And the property market there is falling. It's stagnating. The property market is stagnating.
But now it's interesting that Jupiter, as the representative of the American people, is exalted. And now we should remind ourselves that Jupiter doesn't, it is descriptive of the American people in this chart, but he is especially descriptive of the rich people, being Jupiter. So now the rich people, they are exalted and they will be happy. But what about the normal American people? Because now he's in the 8th house and this is the house of debt. So I wonder if we could also use Saturn as, well, he represents assets and he represents, I think, the dollar. So if the dollar goes down and, you know, somebody will lower the interest rate as promised, then actually debt becomes cheaper. And it is easier to contract new credit, new debt than it has been before, which raises the possibility of the Americans to spend, but they don't spend then from their own money that they have, you know, put aside. They would pick up new credits and get more indebted. Yes, it would stimulate for a moment the markets because people might buy more stuff, but it's on credit. I mean, that's not money that you have really earned.
No.
And interestingly, well, there's Jupiter, and that will go to people who have already a lot of money, but Jupiter is in the 8th house, which is the 2nd of the 7th. So, which is what we said before, the 8th house is basically the money of the other people, of the enemies, or of our business partners. So we know that China earns basically the US. I mean, there is no talking around it. The debt, the American debt, is earned by Japan and China, and mostly I think China, which actually means that they can recontract their conditions and they can stop lending money to America. And it implies a lot of things. It implies they have the American market in their hands if they want so. Aswin, correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think
very dangerous thing.
It's an accurate statement. I think China has already shown that just after COVID by taking off a lot of money and further kind of resulting in economic derailment of America. And I think it started by the end of Trump's government before Biden came into the office. And I also think, this 4th house really worries me because we just had a shooting which kind of has blown everyone. People have a lot of opinions, and instead of fighting whether it was right or wrong, I think it's important to note that there is a lot of chance for that or such scenarios to kind of continue because of the 4th house, and Mars also is very strong in the 12th house. So I wouldn't rule out shooting or any ugly incidents that happen within the United States. But I think as far as the debt scenario is concerned, I think the debt of US is 10 trillion more than their economy itself. So that answers it all. So
Much bigger.
that's my actually much bigger. So it's really see,
I
many
mean, and
people
it's funny
think
that
yeah.
they made this big tariffs. They increased the tariffs now in China. He was menacing. I think he was threatening about 500%. But basically, he's
in
threatening
India as well.
tariffs on the country that lends him money, a lot of money. And besides, I think yesterday or maybe 2 days ago, there was the new news on immigration. What you said before, Aswin, immigration might be a big problem, or is already. We know it's already a big problem with the ICE and whatever is happening there. But there's now a cost for everybody who wants to come into America of a certain category. I don't remember.
Tourist fee, yeah, I know. As an Indian, if I have to
$100,000.
No, that's the HB. That's the HB1 visa.
Yeah, that is like very expensive.
Which is really $100,000 US. So if you are an HB1 visa holder right now, and you are currently inside the United States, this law comes into effect, I believe at midnight on Sunday. So that's funny, right? Because it's right after the eclipse. But what the point is if you are an HB1 visa holder and you are currently outside of the United States, let's say visiting family, there is a huge concern that these people will not be able to re-enter the U.S. without paying $100,000.
Can you specify exactly what this visa is, for whom this visa is?
The HB1 visa is meant to be like a skilled worker visa. And a great number of HB1 visa holders, for example, are from the subcontinent. So you have a lot of people working in Silicon Valley,
this is what happened after the Hyundai. Was it Hyundai when they arrested 450 South Koreans?
Skilled workers that were there to build an electric battery plant.
Yep. But I mean, underlying
what a huge miscalculation.
This is not just workers. These are skilled workers.
These are skilled workers. Absolutely.
Not easy to get. And maybe not easily replaceable in every case.
No.
That's the problem.
Joli, is it really $100,000?
It's really $100,000.
I thought it's 100,000 rupees.
No, it's $100,000, and the question is
because it was there in Indian news showing that Indians holding HbA1c should pay 100,000, but since it was in India, I thought it was rupees. I didn't realize that it was dollars. Oh my God, $100,000! I'm scared for my brother now.
I mean, so now the question then becomes, because obviously your average HB1 visa worker will not have that amount in reserve. So then it's the company. The company's going to have to pay that on behalf of the worker.
Well, the goal is to replace them with American workers. The goal is clear. But I mean, do they consider how much time it requires to get a worker make from a normal worker
up and running
worker?
I mean, exactly.
That can be years.
Yeah, I can see his reasoning, and it's good reasoning to get more American people in work, in skilled jobs, but it's not thought through. How are they going to get them up to skill level?
That's it.
Without the skilled workers. I see his reasoning, and I think, well, that's good on him. He's looking after the American people, which is what he's always pledged to do. America first, the rest of the world, I don't care. But it is
the same as for terrorists.
It would be a little short-sighted.
Yeah, but the same is for terrorists, because you need to get the material he is putting his terrorists on from other facilities. But if they are not ready, or if it is specialized stuff like chips or whatever, this will hurt his own economy. And
no, Tania, what they're doing is they're not imposing tariffs on everything. So they are excluding some items which actually are not falling under the tariff. So chips will come under those things. So
Yeah, okay.
India
maybe
also has
chips,
been
but-
imposed 50% tariffs, but not on those products that America or Americans actually need it very badly. So it's on other.
Yeah, but you will see one requires the other one. That is
Yeah,
in
no,
the
I'm
chain
just saying, like,
Yeah.
it's
you
not
may
generalized.
not impose tariffs on chips, but you might impose tariffs on
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
that
I mean,
is
ultimately, it is
needed to build
detrimental.
chips, right?
Yeah, it's like the British steel. Well,
Yeah.
they call it British steel. It's hardly existing. But Trump has said, no, it's still 25% tariff on British steel. So that cuts out the British steel, cuts out an industry that Britain used to be the leader of. And now I think we've got one steel refinery left, or producer. So
Yeah, but it also gets crazy because now he wanted Europe to, or he wants to set big tariffs, or impose tariffs for all the countries that import oil from Russia or other countries. And there's now an agreement that Europe, or for example, Germany, who heavily depends on Russian oil, which is actually basically neighbor of Russia, should not import any more oil from there, but from America. So the oil would be shipped, and then we are get back again to our water science, through the Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Ocean to come to the other to European and whatever
significantly
ports.
more cost.
yes, yeah.
Of course.
So, and
But the
one,
cost is
So
on
that
who
part-
buys. That's the problem. He just wants to sell the American oil, and then that's on the Europeans, and then who have to pay for the shipment.
yeah, yeah.
And the danger, eventual havoc that is created to the seas if something happens with those oil containers.
And one of those points that you mentioned, Tania, about sending out skilled labors or something like that, really was interesting because it goes back to history. Like, I think this is one of the problems of having a lot of money as a nation. I think England was down this road, and the real scholars or researchers or educated people of England are from generation like of 40s or the 50s or maybe even 60s. But after that, the people who go into the university, the rate of people going to university has significantly reduced, and now the people in the 20s and early 20s or something, they're not even going to the universities. So it is very difficult for people to kind of find skilled labor. I don't know if this is the case with America. I don't know the statistics, but I think if America has a similar or close to kind of something like other European nations, I think it's very difficult to basically fill that gap as far as skilled labors are concerned, because American software industry is basically run by the Asians. So it has a lot of Chinese, a lot of Indians. At least 6 or 7 major IT giants are headed by Indians. So it's probably not easy to, and it is also a fact that the cost is much more to kind of employ an American citizen than to employ other people from other countries. So I think there is a lot of disparities and discrepancies that America has to address as a nation if they're going to, tighten the screws as far as the visa processing is concerned.
I think the problem of skilled work is actually a global problem. I know that.
Yeah,
I don't know
was
if
just about to say
you
that.
remember in the 60s, Germany called for immigrants. They made calls to every surrounding country to get immigrants to work in the machineries, in whatever. They hadn't enough people to work there after the war and after to rebuild the country and stuff. And millions came over time, and well, they're still there with their families and stuff. And now there is a second call for skilled workers, especially they are opening universities for researchers. They are opening their arms now for the American researchers that might leave America, but they are especially searching for people with informatics skills and programming skills. And it is actually surprising that they need to do that. Why haven't they thought about that? You know, every country. Why don't they think about educational programs? Sorry, to bring their own people up to a certain level.
Well, that's one of the, that's
this is what
the
you
issue.
meant. Yeah, no, but
That's
it's not
the issue here, isn't it? It's the same
Yeah.
thing, that youngsters, it costs them so much to go to university. They don't want to be saddled with 50,000-60,000 debt that they've got to leave university with.
Yeah, but you know, for example, in England, you pay for university. In Germany, you don't pay for it.
Yeah, well,
so the education is free, but there is apparently a lack of this kind of, I don't know, but why are they calling for foreign people if the universities offer those courses? I don't know. It's just you know, seeing the facts.
yeah. Well, there we go.
Yeah, I think the 11th house is something that we need to discuss a little more on, Jolly. I think you have been awfully silent for someone who is very vocal about America and its history. So let's have you.
She's just waiting for a good time.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I did want to point out that I thought it was very interesting. This particular ingress chart falls exactly in the same configuration, if you will, with a Sag ascendant, albeit at an anaretic degree. So, of course, the Sibley, if you're using the U.S. Sibley chart, the ascendant is at 12 degrees of Sag, and here we're seeing 29 degrees Sag. So to me, that's saying that something is in the process of changing. And of course, Jupiter being the ascendant ruler, well, Jupiter's, in that sense, the ascendant is about to go into the sign of Jupiter's fall. So I just thought that there's something there that I haven't quite explored yet. But going back to that packed 11th house, I really think it's, again, interesting that we're seeing the moon, the sun, Mercury, and moon are all applying to the Sibley chart's Saturn, which sits at 14 degrees of a Libra. And, whenever I think of Libra, actually, I do think about the military. The idea of this combination of power and control mixed with this kind of, Venus was in other cultures associated as being like the goddess of war, if you will. So and there is that side of her. So I think it's really interesting that you have Libra packed in the 11th house. It can be, we can peel those layers away in so many different ways. Of course, there is that, again, Mercury being sandwiched. There is that clamp down on free speech, which was recently illustrated by the banning of Jimmy Kimmel and his show, based on a comment that he made as a comedian. And, I thought it was very interesting because there's a quite well-known historian, celebrity, YouTube person named Heather Cox Richardson. And she recently made the comment that often when we see this kind of clamping down, it's because if you've ever been a teacher in a classroom, you know that you have to get control of your class from the start. If the kids start running around, you've lost it. That's it. So this is I believe, powers that be trying to get control of the situation. But what it all obviously invites as the other side, Libra, is that they're not in control, or that they fear that they're not in control. And I think that's really, again, we can see the 11th house in mundane astrology is going to speak to alliances. It's going to speak to social movements, and to have all those planets there applying to Saturn. Yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned that there's going to be like a major crackdown. And of course, the biggest worry would be martial law.
Do you consider also the 5th house here because of the entertainment industry? Because
I was thinking about the entertainment industry as well.
And I mean, he has threatened to take the license of several TV stations now. And I mean, we have seen this here in Italy. It has happened to many. They started with comedians, actually. I don't know, they have it with the comedians. It was under the several Berlusconi regimes here. And we could see it every month. There was another one going. The most successful people, the most independent comedians. They, of course, they made jokes of politicians, but that's their job. And they went, and also the directors of TV stations, if they were not aligned with the ruling party, they all had to leave. And now we are left with,
we're left with television you can't watch.
There's no program anymore
Yeah.
that is free, that can make fun of people, that can bring news. It is everything that they say is criticized by somebody in the government and then brought down. It's just
So same here.
Yeah.
Comedians are no longer. Satirists are no longer.
I mean, England was famous. You could go to a major square and talk BS of everybody who was around you, and it was maybe good and maybe not, but you were free to do it. I mean,
not allowed now. We used to have a program called Spitting Image that really was so close to the bone, but it was fantastic.
Absolutely.
And nothing like that is allowed now. But I just wanted to get back to the American chart, to the fact that now because I don't know American politics, American ways of being, but here in the UK, the 11th house relates to the Treasury. And I'm wondering, with 3 planets in the 11th house, the assets of the government, how you think that may play out, or doesn't the government have a treasury? We know they've got the Fed, which is not a government institution, it's a private institution. But does the government have their own treasury? Because we know that Trump's spoken about reducing personal income tax. And I wondered what your thoughts were on that, Joli, on the 11th house.
I mean, there is a secretary of the Treasury, but again, this is, with the Fed being an independent institution, hence why there's like pressure. Can you please lower the interest rates? And of course, Jerome Powell's like, no, that's not how it works. I'm looking at the macros. So, with regards to that, I think it is, again, something that Trump has promised. I think we have to take what Trump promises with a huge grain of salt. I mean, he will try to put things into bills and say, oh, I'm doing you a big favor. But when it's actually, when you drill down, you realize that it's not really serving anyone. So, the most recent example is, oh, I won't tax tips that servers get, for example, in the US. So, with regards to what's going on with the US finances, I mean, I will say that recently there has been a surge in tax receipts in the US, and people are saying this is on the back of the tariffs. The tariffs are proving to actually be bringing in money to the US. So, that, and I know this isn't quite connected to what you were saying or asking, but the other piece that Trump has done is he has lowered immigration on the southern border. Like, those numbers have basically collapsed. So, on the surface, he could certainly claim that he has fulfilled some of his main campaign promises by bringing in money. So that would be the 11th house. And of course, collapsing immigration numbers on the southern border. So, again, it's a case of when you drill down, the story isn't quite as simple as it would appear.
It never is it? And what about the IRS? Because apparently that's being significantly defunded.
It's been gutted. So there used to be a program by which you could kind of like what we have here in the UK. You can kind of self-assess and run it through a program and then submit directly to the IRS. And I believe the Trump administration has taken that away, and has gutted large swaths of the IRS, which of course makes it very difficult for the average person to know how to do things properly. And then, you just wonder, so is that then a pretext for punishing people? Well, you didn't fill that form out properly. You didn't do this properly. Now you owe us more money. I mean, it's kind of hard to understand what the end game is, but certainly with regards to the IRS, there has been a significant cutting of the functions of the IRS.
Yeah, because again, I think one of the stated aims was to do away with personal tax and take it back to the 1900s, before the creation of the Fed and the income tax. But whether or not he's going to be able to take America back to that free system and just rely on tariffs, which is where America's money did come from originally, that it was the tariffs.
It's the idea of hearkening back to the Wild West, and the Wild West was lawless. So, in a sense, certainly the Supreme Court has been rubber stamping everything that, and the Supreme Court's meant to be part of the checks and balances system on the executive power and the legislative branch. So the fact that they are rubber stamping everything is quite sad, I think.
Well, personally, I'd go for no income tax.
I think, now this is interesting actually, because I had this conversation with my husband just yesterday, I believe. I think your average person is okay paying income tax if it's with the understanding that I have good schools, good roads, good access to medical care. If you think that your taxes are funding something that is good for your community, I think most people are happy to pay.
Yeah,
I think that's right.
Maybe not 55%, would you say?
It's a universal problem, right?
It is a universal problem, but from my perspective, and this is something that I actually have learned through conversations with my husband, paying taxes is patriotic. It means you care about your country. The issue, of course, is how is it being dispersed?
Yeah.
Who is dipping their hand in and taking out more than they want? We've recently seen, sorry, just to go back to the UK, there is a mayor of a city in UK who was previously a Tory MP, and she has decided to give herself a £147,000 raise because she needs help to answer her emails.
Yes, this is the whole thing. But I think, yes,
How can we apply?
I'm very jaded about income tax.
Can I help them?
Because we're taxed on absolutely everything, taxed time and time again. Money I've saved that I've paid tax on, I'm being taxed on. And when we die, death and taxes.
If you have this clock in England, here in Italy, there's a famous clock. It says after 9 or 10 months, now you have finished paying taxes. The rest is for you.
No, we don't have that.
If I have to pay 55% taxes, I'd rather not earn at all. Like
we're taxed 24/7.
It's a tax clock. Yeah, it's pretty well known. It's very frustrating. Really, basically around Christmas.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to that.
I'll be happy to be a
Venus
jobless
again
man.
for the UK.
I'd said if I have to pay 55% taxes, I'd be happy to be a jobless man.
No, see, again, Aswin, sorry, I'm going to push back on that. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
No, I mean,
every human being with, a modicum of ability wants to live with dignity, wants to be a productive member of society. 55%, that should be for anyone who is a billionaire, because quite frankly, billionaires are not necessary. They are something that, I'm sorry, and if this pisses people off, so be it. But there is no earthly reason for billionaires to exist. So if they have to pay 55% or more, then I think that should be the case. Robert Reich, who used to be the Secretary of Treasury, I believe, and also Secretary of Agriculture under previous administrations here in the U.S. Well, they're in the U.S., I'm in the U.K. He had a brilliant post on Twitter X recently that started with trickle down economics and then trickle down economic. And, he kept dropping a letter. And as you went all the way down, trickle down economics, trickle down economic, trickle down economic, whatever, it goes all the way down to the very bottom, trick.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is.
Yes, it is a trick. Sleight of hand.
I agree with you, Joli, that we would all love to pay for something that we see is for our community, but it is all washed out. I mean, we can see the schools here do not work, the roads are wrong, and they're all full of holes. Nothing is working. But yes, as you said, the politicians have to raise their own salaries because they are poor. So and I think also, if you have an amount of money that is reasonable, I mean, to give 10% or 20% or something like that, that is reasonable. But I mean, giving more than a half of your salary, and here in Italy, it's basically more than half, then it is not right anymore. And also, there doesn't seem to be really a big difference between the rich and the poor. I mean, the poor pay a lot, and the rich know how to evade. So.
Yes, that's a really good point. And I have to say that a lot of this, I think, is imported from the philosophy of Milton Friedman, who was a US economist in the 70s, who basically said that, when I learned economics in university, it was this whole idea of Thomas Paine and the idea that, you are in a capitalistic system creating a space for social good. Well, Milton Friedman blew that out of the water by saying that corporations have absolutely no responsibility or obligation towards social good. In other words, their sole purpose for existence is profit. And I'm sorry to say that I think that philosophy, that way of thinking, has been imported to, or exported, I should say, to the rest of the world, so that it's all about your bottom line. As a politician, you're supposed to be there to make your communities better. This is my Aquarius sun talking now. You're meant to be there to improve what is the fabric of society. And you get paid, maybe not as much as you would like, but the argument now is we have to pay more to get skilled people in to government. Well, quite frankly, I don't see skilled people in the US or the UK government right now. These people are average at best. Sorry. Apologies for that.
But what about taxing or the taxation of big companies? I mean, there has been the recent problem of Google.
We're kind of, sorry to be so rude, but I feel we're kind of coming off the actual astrology of the ingress.
Yeah.
We've all just aired our personal opinions and not.
So we are switching officially to China.
Yeah.
We'll quickly finish off China, and I think we already went way past our actual time, so that's fine. It's not an issue. But again, China with Leo rising, I think the rising itself indicates that something is kind of rising. So China is moving ahead, but obviously the sun is fallen. The Lord of the first house is fallen. So the opinion or perspectives about China on the global platform is not necessarily going to be good. And they also have this 8th house, which indicates mishap or major transformations that might kind of cause some kind of a disruption. But interestingly, the eclipse falls in the 2nd house for China, probably ending something and also triggering something very new in terms of their economic prospects or growth. So China as a wonderful, great growth story that it was for the 40 years, I think it is going to continue regardless of what people think, whether they have authoritarian government or whatever it is. but I think China is rising. But this chart itself is not necessarily a very easy chart. So China has a lot of roadblocks to kind of cross during this period. I think the free speech and in China will also come into limelight. Obviously, they are not really uh, very explicit like other nations or people of other nations on social media. They have their own social media, they have their own uh, everything, literally their own. So I think something related to TikTok is also going on, Jolly, between China and America, if I'm not wrong. And there could be a new beginning of social media matters, and how the Chinese and how the world interact with the Chinese because of the third house and the eclipse in the second house itself, which acts as a house of speech in second house. But communication is a major part, which is basically kind of prominent in this chart. The most prominent house is the third house with Sun, Mercury, and the Moon. So there is some, but I think some mishap or major challenges or tragic events might take place in China as well. So
I'm also wondering if that Mars on the cusp of the fourth house
yeah.
is speaking to some kind of militarization, some kind of increase in security for the homeland. I just think that falling there is very interesting. Could it possibly have to do with, war games with regards to the takeover of Taiwan? I mean, just there's something.
Or what about the dam? The big dam?
Dam?
Oh, what's it called?
The Yangtze River Dam.
Yeah, the biggest dam built.
That is, yes, yeah.
Mars just going into the fourth.
Water sign. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if we might be hearing
happening there
of something that will put everything else out of the picture.
Yeah.
Not.
I hope not.
But we have also seen the big show off, the military show off that you probably thought of, right, Joli, with Putin being invited to China and
Yes.
the huge military parade that they
with new. They were showing
the entire world with new weapons.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So new technologies, military technologies, and look where the Mars is. So he's getting stronger now. He's basically at his strongest.
Yeah.
And it is a nocturnal chart. He is angular in his own domicile. He can't get any stronger.
In his own bound. Yeah. I mean, literally, that is, yeah. So that, I think that's very, very interesting. And it would follow on the trend that we've been seeing all summer. Definitely. There was something I read recently about how also, I believe China has installed more solar panels now than any other nation. Something about solar panels and the acceleration of China's policy towards like a green future, if you will, and they are clearly leading that race. I mean, it is really interesting if you think about how this is where you can see a clear divergence between the U.S. and China. China is banking on green energy in the future, and the U.S. is banking on fossil fuels. So I think that shows up in both charts as a continuing point, for sure.
I wonder about the 8th house. There's Saturn there. So what about the credit line? And the ruler of the 8th is in the 12th.
I mean, they are increasing cooperation with Asian partners, Asian countries.
Yeah, China.
And Russia, right?
And
Russia obviously is a major part of being China, being China.
BRICS.
But I think China has a very strong hold in Africa, primarily through kind of initiating projects by giving debt and all those things. And also in Latin America, China has a very strong foothold in Brazil. And before Javier Milei's government, I think it was there in Argentina as well, but uh, uh, the current government in Argentina is leaning more towards the United States. So I think that's a little bit of a change. But I think overall in Africa and also in Latin America, China has a very good presence, especially by providing debts, long-term debts to economic prosperity with a view, but also to kind of invest in various projects as part of infrastructure development in those countries. So I think they're pretty much, maybe they'll face some not so good news because of those things, or maybe they'll expand further, or maybe they're going to choke someone.
Maybe. Yeah. That's
I just wonder about the ruler. I mean, the 10th house ruler is Venus, and she's in her fall, and she is in aversion to her own sign in Libra. So he appears to be pretty weak. It doesn't appear to me. I don't know what his status is in China. Do you have any news on that?
that's a really, really good point. I think that, from what limited pieces I've been able to read the past couple of months, there was something about Xi trying to cement his power or his hold on power. And, maybe this is suggesting that train of thought isn't kind of going quite the way he would like it to. I wish I could add more, but that's what's springing to mind, is that I remember reading an article that had something to do with how Xi was, wielding power on the domestic front. Obviously, on the international front, I think he is projecting a very kind of strong leadership vibe, and he's organizing these conferences and whatnot. But on the domestic front, there might be a little bit of a disconnect.
Also, if you look at her, she's not doing any aspect very soon.
Mm.
The Mars is separating
From Mars, yeah. The next aspect, as you said, would be to Jupiter, yeah.
To Jupiter,
That's
and this
it.
takes still a while, yes.
Yeah.
And also, she would apply him in the 12th house, which is not, it's more under the table negotiations, but then again, it's the 8th house ruler she's applying.
Well, she goes from Jupiter to Saturn. That's it. That's her only aspects.
Yeah.
And that would be in opposition to Saturn. So
Yeah, that's what she finishes with.
Yeah,
I think China will surprise us. This is not very transparent here.
Yeah, it feels murky. It's strange how it feels more murky than the other ones in some ways.
Yeah. But then it's China. I mean, they have never been very out in the open, right?
Exactly. That they're known for being somewhat secretive, let's say, or actually, to be fair though, I don't think it's so much that they're secretive, as much as it is that we don't have enough of their domestic news. There isn't enough translation, so that it from our eyes, from our perspective, it appears that they're less than transparent.
More difficult to get the news, you mean?
It's more difficult, I think, for us to get.
Yeah, the language barrier is
can't be overlooked, right?
I mean, that's the big thing, isn't it? For the rest of the world, either has Latin-based languages or English as a second language. So it's easier to communicate, and that comes down to that Mercury. Sorry, it squeezed in between the sun and the moon. It's all about communication and the ability to understand.
But it's funny how this Mercury turns out in every chart that we are looking at is so important, right? I mean, it's just
yes, yeah,
universally important here.
This is the Aries Ingress for Gaza. Oh no, Tel Aviv. You've got
Tel Aviv. Yeah, well, could you give us the September, the Libra Ingress?
Yeah. I mean,
So that's interesting that Jupiter is on the Mars in the Aries ingress.
yeah.
So that's globally anyway. Oh no, not globally, no, because it is on the Mars, but the actual ascendant. What is that?
Right. So this is again
fourth
we've got-
lord sun is fallen again,
Yeah.
and the moon is in the 6th house. So no reprieve as yet for the Gazans, and Saturn is also in the 11th house along with the node. So not much alliances are not going to work as far as I see. And
I
Mars is
noticed,
entering
yeah.
the seventh house. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't see much good news. 5th house, Venus is fallen. The Lord of the rising sign, it is fallen in the 5th house. So challenging times again.
Yeah, I think we should leave that one.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that the flotilla started her sail or their sail at 29 at 0 degrees. Sorry, Scorpio in what I'm saying, 0 degrees Saturn in Aries, which is the 12th house of this Libra Ingress.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I researched the story of the flotilla because I thought it was, a recent thing now for this particular genocide. But actually, the first flotillas are going way back into history. And in 2010, they tried to reach the harbor of Gaza, and already by then, the harbor was closed, and 12 people, if I'm not wrong, were killed on the boats when they tried to get into the Gaza harbor. So and now, well, this was just one single ship, and then we know what happened in June, and the people on the boat were arrested and then deported back to their home countries. But now they're having like 30 ships, big ships, international, from all kinds of countries. But well, the journey started in the 12th house, so I doubt they will reach the harbor. Just saying. I mean,
yeah, I think there's been a step up in the rhetoric against the flotilla as well, whereas before they were known as like selfie boats,
yeah, well, they
flotilla.
wanted to bring attention to it, yeah.
And now they're being labeled as Hamas. So
yeah, but I mean, look at the second house, assets, but also food, right? What, and it is in the 6th house, and the same as we said before, it's between the two luminaries.
Yeah.
So
yeah, most likely won't reach. So
yeah, blocked,
and no food for Gaza.
right.
So can we finish with something positive? I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm also thinking. Let's finish with something positive.
We have a nice.
Shall we look at
just
Antarctica?
as a side note, do you know where the solar eclipse is actually on the ascendant?
Oh, that's an interesting. I did want to mention that. Am I wrong in thinking that the solar eclipse is actually only visible to a very small part of the world? It's only happening
Antarctica.
right?
Yeah.
And
New Zealand and Australia, I
that's
think.
it. That's
exactly.
That's
And actually, Virgo is rising. Well, the eclipse is in Virgo, and I researched yesterday where actually at least Virgo is on the ascendant, and it was kind of tricky. And it is actually the closest point that the eclipse is. Not to the degree, but very close, is New Caledonia, and then Brisbane in Australia.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe you want to, keep that in mind and check what is happening there. So between Brisbane and Caledonia, there is more or less the right degree, but those two places have the ascendant in Virgo and several different degrees, and that's the closest I could go. And so the exact point is probably in the sea between those two places.
I mean, let's face it, we're not going to have good news anywhere in the world with this planetary configuration. So we can do our best And we can say, well, countries that have suffered drought are going to get plenty of rain. Oh, bingo, except for there'll be floods because the
Maybe we
ground's
can
too
think
hard.
about developing new storage systems for water, new water filters. Maybe we can bring our attention to those things that we can learn of too much water.
Can I just
Maybe we
say,
can-
actually, this is really interesting, this Tokyo chart, the Aries ingress, because we've just seen, obviously, you can see Mars there in Cancer in the 10th house. And we've just had news, I believe it was on the 7th of September, so right around that Pisces eclipse, of the latest Japanese prime minister to resign. And I believe one of the leading candidates is Shinjiro Koizumi, and he is actually the son of the previous maverick Japanese Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi. So I just think that's so striking because I didn't remember that Mars is there in Cancer, and we're basically looking, I believe, at our fourth Prime Minister in 5 years.
So
That's a record.
I wonder what the Jupiter on the Mars is doing at the moment then. And when he comes back, because Jupiter obviously will retrograde back.
Well, exactly. So there's a little bit of a back and forth game going on for sure, for sure. Is there any chance that we could just quickly pull up that Libra chart, Aswin? Because that was a Libra rising, so obviously we would want to.
Yeah, Jupiter gets back to the 20th degree in January.
The Libra chart, Ashwin?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And
there
then
we go.
May next year.
Oh, wow. Look at that. So it falls in the 11th house, which I appreciate, Sharon, you were saying is the treasury. I know that in some of my research, I've seen that as, again, legislative bodies, social alliances. I mean, what's interesting is that the prime minister, Ishiba, stepped down because he basically presided over the loss of the LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party, which has basically been ruling Japan since World War II, the end of World War II. So they, under his leadership, they lost their majority in the lower house, and then in July lost their majority in the upper chamber as well. So he was like, yeah, okay, you're not working for us here. You got to go. But he resigned, effective for when the next person is elected. And so we've got 3 possible candidates, including, again, Junichiro Koizumi's son, but he's very young. He was only born in 1981. And then we have another woman who was actually born in 1961, and her name is Shanae. Oh, I can't remember her surname now, but I think it's going to be between him and her, and it'll be so interesting to see what happens.
Well, they have the eclipse also in the first house.
Yes, the eclipse is in the first house, and then interestingly, the MC is ruled by a fallen Venus.
Yeah.
So now I'm wondering, does that mean she loses?
Yeah.
But then it's in the first house.
And the eclipse exactly trines, right? The MC?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So that's actually, this is a really interesting chart to look at, I think. And Venus is conjunct the ascendant. I mean, she is very popular.
So what you say makes actually sense.
When Ishiba was elected October 2024, she came in second. So
she's got a good chance.
She's got a very good chance, I think. A very good chance. And I'm just wondering.
But then why would Venus be in her fall? That is, she is very strong because she's angular. She's exactly on the ascendant, which is all good.
Then ruling the MC, but maybe she's in fall because of and now this is what's so interesting. Is it because of culturally, right? You're to have a female prime minister, like that's a huge deal. That's like having a female president in the US.
Oh, okay. So she's an alien, basically.
Yeah. I'm wondering if this is reflecting how out of place this would all be.
Well, she is in a female sign now, so maybe that's bringing it up, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. So there was never a female president there.
Nope. Prime Minister. No.
Prime Minister, sorry, yes.
No.
Yeah, well, that could explain it. I don't know.
That could be
But
something.
maybe she has just not enough back support.
Well, again, maybe it's a case of they're not ready to have a female prime minister, in which case then I think Koizumi would be the one to win. There is another candidate, Yoshimasa.
So Mercury rules the 10th, the young person.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
two
that's a good
lights.
point.
That could be very that yeah. That
I also wonder, has she
sense.
real power then, or is she just more or less a puppet that is being shown off?
No, she's really, I think she's quite powerful actually. And again, the fact that she came in second to Ishiba, the person who has just resigned as prime minister in the October 2024 election, is really a big deal. I mean, I understand that Koizumi only got 9%, and that was mainly because people thought he was too young.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, really, yeah. That's kind of a good note to leave on, right?
Yeah,
Mystery.
I think that's good.
We've got a
think it's
mystery.
It's an interesting chart. So, but I don't know much about Japan except for Mr. Miyagi's karate in Okinawa. So, so yeah. Okay. I think that's a good funny note to leave on. So I think we'll come back together for the next Capricorn Ingress.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you in another episode.